I'm Travis Brown, founder and CEO of Mojo Up Marketing and Media. And this is my podcast, where I talk to the most successful Black and brown business executives who've broken through the barriers of today's business culture. Welcome to Mojo Up Live, the Diverse and Talented podcast. I'm your host, Travis Brown, and today I got none other than the Angela B. Freeman. She's a partner at Barnes and Thornburg. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I should have said you're a partner at Barnes and Thornburg, but you also have a dope podcast that you have been going. So how did you decide to start your podcast?
So I didn't decide to start it. I think it's so funny. I get that question a lot. I didn't decide to start the podcast. So my podcast is the Freedom Forum with Angela B. Freeman, and it's owned by and hosted by me, but owned by the Indianapolis Business Journal. They came to me with the idea and said, Angela, we thought about this diversity podcast. I had interviewed with IBJ like the summer over COVID and done a podcast with them, and they had heard that podcast and decided, okay, she's our host. We need to reach out to her. So that's how it happened. Yeah. I wasn't the brainchild of it, but I'm thankful to be a part.
Yeah, that's been great. I know you had some great guests on it. We have some crossover guests on it, and doing a great job. All right, but I got to pick up with this question I know you also get a lot. Like, you have this background where you're a biologist, and now you're an attorney. Yeah. And I think people are fascinated because of the grind it takes to become a biologist, and the smarts and intelligence. And then that wasn't enough, so then you decided to go just do it again with law. So how'd that go down?
I didn't know what I was getting myself into, first of all, and that's probably a good thing. I had always excelled in science and math as a child through elementary and middle school on through college. So that was just my instinctiveness, and I know I'm going to do well. I know my mother had always told me, I don't know what this is going to be, but it's got to be something. Yeah. So we knew that was a good path to go, particularly as a diverse woman, different person in that field. So that's what led me to biology. Went to University of Louisville, studied biology, double majored in biology and chemistry, and then really went into molecular biology as a grad student. And that's really where I found my passion for biology. So it had just been something I was good at until then, but that's where I really had the opportunity to study genetics, study how, people's DNA, not just people, organisms, right, differ by their DNA, and you can categorize and learn lineages and relationships through the study of DNA. And to me, that fascinated me. I thought that was awesome. In grad school, I was studying fungus and nothing fascinating at all. But that led to my job at Lilly, where I actually got to use this knowledge in studying people and how people differ and how they differ with regard to their drug responses, their disease susceptibility, adverse responses to drugs. And that was fascinating. I thought that was absolutely awesome. So I had a whole career. But I had done that for 10 or 12 years and kind of was at a point where I was looking at long term. What was I going to do long term? I have to admit that was around the recession. It was around 2008, 2009. So there was a lot of flux in jobs in corporate America. I think everybody was kind of looking at, okay, what's my plan B in case things don't quite work out? And I realized I didn't have a plan B and I needed to come up with something. I'd been kind of, working at Lilly, had a great job, but hadn't thought about what else. And so it made me think about that. And a gentleman came into Lilly. He was an MD, JD. He was talking about personalized medicine, this genetic data that we had been generating. But he gave kind of the legal twist on it. Who owned it, the privacy around it, who could have access to all this genetic data. And that fascinated me. I thought that was very interesting. Never thought about lawyers, didn't know what being a lawyer took, didn't know any attorneys. So really started pursuing that path. I had met a black female lawyer, Alicia DeCudro, who was a bigwig at Lilly at the time. She was running the whole sales division, and she and I had won a diversity award together, and she had reached out and said, Angela, if I could help you, let me know. And so I kind of reached out to her as the only attorney I knew and said, hey, I'm kind of thinking about this law thing, like, what can you tell me? And she was the one who really planted the seed around Angela, you're a scientist. If you have interest in being a lawyer, there is this beautiful intersection called patent law. You should look at that. I had no idea what that was. When I thought about lawyers, I thought about criminal law or family law. That's the only lawyers that I even knew of, and I knew I didn't want to have any part of either one of those. So this idea that I could use this scientific background that I had built a whole career on and kind of pivot it into a legal career, which, you know, I'd been taught my whole life by my grandparents. Every lawyer, every family, particularly every black family, needs a lawyer and a doctor, right? And we didn't have any. They thought I was going to be the doctor, because I had been in the sciences and I knew that wasn't going to be the case. So the idea that I could become this lawyer, I thought, that's awesome. So, you know, pursued it, talked to folks, figure out what that meant, what did law school require, because again, I wasn't from Indiana, knew nothing about law schools or graduate schools at all in Indiana, and talked to folks and figured, you know, what do I have to lose? I've got a good job, had a family at the time, didn't want to do woulda, coulda, shoulda, you know, didn't want to look back and say, oh, if I would have just applied, what could have happened? I thought, you know, what can happen? They tell me no, you know. I was older, I'd been in that career, so it's kind of just, I don't want to have any regrets. Applied and got in and thought, okay, I've started myself on another journey, and 10 years later, I'm partner at Barnes and Thornburg, so it's been an awesome ride.
There's so much in there to unpack right now. I'm like, man, first of all, I you know, we've had some conversations with Lilly about recruiting, helping them recruit from scientist perspective.
Sure.
And so literally that's fresh on my mind, thinking about the lack of black and brown people that are scientists, right?
Absolutely.
And so one, you conquer that, like you go into that arena, and now you're doing that. So what was that like to be? I don't know if you can consider yourself a biologist or a scientist or
I'm all that.
You know, all of that, right?
Absolutely.
Because I don't feel like sitting here today, I'm like, oh, I know these black scientists.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like this under the radar type thing, but you were that. So what was that like?
I love being a scientist. I loved being at Lilly. I took a lot of pride in that. And not just, I mean, you know, Lilly is known in the city of having great career opportunities, but you know, so many diverse folks at Lilly are particularly on the marketing side or the finance or even IT or tech. You know, I was on the science side, and I was very proud of that. I was diverse. There was not a lot of us, but there were some. I mean, because of course Lilly's an international company, so they're recruiting from everywhere. It was hard. It was challenging as all get out. I mean, I remember, but I was a bench scientist. I was a lab scientist. My job was to do experiments and to generate data that could answer questions as to how our drugs are going to respond, what patients are going to have adverse effects, and what can we do to make those drugs better, right? Or how can we target particular populations and know with confidence they're going to have good results with this particular drug. And so my job was to study the genetics and learn, you know, what genetically has happened in a particular disease or a particular person. And I love that. I mean, I love it.
Do you still have an opportunity to talk to little girls, young people about science?
I do, but now I'm talking to them more in the context of being an attorney. So when I was at Lilly, we did camps, excuse me, we did all kind of stuff, talking to, you know, diverse students about, you know, pursuing a career or a interest in STEM, science, what that looks like. I mean, again, there wasn't a lot of us, but there were enough of us. And we, you know, that was a whole path. You know, we spent a lot of weekends doing that kind of thing. As I began to transition, my focus became more on letting folks know that patent law is an extension of that science, because I didn't know that, right? It was a full learning for me. So now and then I do a lot of speaking at universities or undergrad or even law schools and graduate schools to engineers, scientists, you know, people in those hard STEM backgrounds, because you have to have that to be a patent attorney. So again, it's not a deviation. You are still on path, but just letting letting them know that, hey, if you get tired of the lab, this is an opportunity. This is a career path that you can pursue that capitalizes on that background. So still do a lot of that.
Well, I think it's interesting too because like you're and I don't want to say only, but one of the few in that arena, and so now you're in this legal arena, and you're still in the same situation. There's not a lot of you.
That's right.
So what's that piece of that look like going? Like you're a partner at one of the largest law firms. As a black female, like what's that mean to you, and what's that been like?
I've been very, very, very blessed. My journey has been very blessed. And I say that with the full acknowledgement that there are plenty who came before me who did not have as good of a path as I have. And I represent them. Like, it is never lost on me that I stand on the shoulders of so many people, many of whom, not just in my law firm, but just generally across the country. It is hard to be a diverse attorney in a large law firm for multiple reasons, but mostly because it just wasn't made for us. So if you're there, you're breaking barriers, and the higher you go and the longer you stay, you just continue to break barriers. I've been blessed to be, one of the first black female law equity partners in my law firm and in my department. I'm the first black IP partner ever in my law firm. So that isn't lost on me. It's hard, and it's hard because, again, it's not made for us. It's hard because the work is hard. It's stressful. It's long hours, and there's no way you get around that. So I was thankful that it came along at a time where I was in a position personally and professionally where I could dig in and do the work and learn the work. Because remember, I'm transitioning careers. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I had to learn that, right? And I was blessed to have folks, many of which who didn't look like me, who invested in me and said, we're going to roll the dice on you. We think you have the chops. And I showed that I had the chops.
Was there a time though when you early on in that you're walking into rooms, I don't want to say pretending, but you're learning, trying to figure it out, and you're like I know they're questioning whether I should be here, but I'm kind of questioning that too.
That's a little hard. I've always been very confident. So I've never questioned whether I deserve to be in a room. Now, I certainly have been in plenty of rooms where I know there were plenty of people who knew more than I did. And I had to learn, right? And so I've taken a very humble stance at, okay, you're starting over. You have to recognize you're starting over, and you're not here to prove to everybody that you deserve to be here. You're here to learn as much as you can from anyone who's willing to teach you. And I think that kind of approach, that kind of reverse psychology, if you will, really aided in my success, because I didn't come in like, look, I've had a whole career and I came in like, hey, I've made it this far, but now I'm in, territory I know nothing about, and I need you to teach me. And they invested in me and made sure. So, there is a lack of confidence there, but never was it, I don't deserve to be here. I worked and earned every bit of it. But, there is the lack of confidence of, now I'm in new territory and I really don't know, and I have to learn.
As a black female at the highest level of the corporate world, right, walking into some of those rooms, have you always felt like you've always been embraced? No. and so how did you navigate? I'm walking to a room that, like, whether they've said they don't think I should be here or I deserve to be here, or maybe they're questioning my knowledge, or they just, because they're male and white or what have you, just don't want to even act like I'm here. Like, how did you deal with that?
My mother told me, and I know so many black and brown folks have heard the same, you've got to be twice as good to get half as far. I've just always known that's going to be the perception, is how'd you get here, what you do to get here, and that's fine. But I'm here, and I'm going to show you why I'm here, right? And I think for all the people who've given me a fair shot, right? And there are going to be people who don't ever give you a fair shot, and there's not much you can do to convince them or sway them. And I think the beauty about me doing what I did kind of making that transition later in life is I had that confidence, right? I had already proven to myself that I could do things that at one point I wasn't convinced at all I could do. So, you know, for the folks who questioned, who actually wanted to give me a fair shot, I've proven all of them wrong. Now, there's still folks sitting around saying, I still don't understand why she's here, and that's fine. You know, like, I'm not a people pleaser. I'm okay with people, you know, not being comfortable with me or not thinking I should be. I'm okay with that.
What about yourself, your authentic self? Did you have to go through a progression, just overall corporate-wise, not maybe even just where you are, where you're like, okay, this is assimilation mode. This is I'm showing up. This is you're getting what you get, and I don't give a shit. Like, you know.
You know, I've tried to balance that, but I've always been more on the this is what you get, right? I've always had a sense of confidence, and I think that comes from, again, I've said it repeatedly, my mother. I grew up as the face of diversity in a mostly white town. So I've always had all eyes on me. I've always been different. I've always been diverse. And I've always been okay with that, right? And so when you grow up like that,
100%.
Walking in a different room where is no different than any other day.
It's interesting because people often ask me that, and I'm like, you know, I've been doing it for so long, like I forgot that it was even a thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I'm so used to walking in and being one of, if not the only person for many a years, trying to walk in there and trying to make sure that, you know, I thought through everything, I'm prepared, like any question they can ask, like, you know, that psychology. Well, then you do it for so long and it becomes like, it's normalcy, right? It's almost abnormal now to go to an event where I'm like, damn, look at all these executive black people.
Absolutely.
You know, that's almost opposite.
That's why the conferences that are for black and brown attorneys of color, they are so enriching, but it is the exception. It's not the rule. When we all leave there, we all, no matter what part of the country you're from, you all go back to a law firm, typically, unless you're black owned, that is majority white, majority male. That is what law firms are in this country. So, you know, you just learn how to navigate in that space authentically as possible, and then make room for others to join. And so that's kind of the mode I'm in now is I've proven myself. I've reached, you know, the highest heights, quote unquote. You know, there's always more to do. And now we got to make room for other folks.
You've mentioned your mom and how much she helped you, you know, become the person you are.
Sure.
Take me back. So where are you from? What was that? What was growing up like that? Because now you've dropped some nuggets of what that might look like. Yeah,
so I'm from a small town called Berea, Kentucky. It's about 45 minutes south of Lexington, Kentucky, University of Kentucky. Everybody knows Lexington. Eastern Kentucky, Appalachian, Southern. It was a small little country town. I mean, but it was beautiful. My parents were from Cincinnati, Ohio. They got married and moved away, and that's where we grew up. So again, that has been the backdrop. Berea College is there. Some people may know Berea College. That's about the only reason you know Berea, is Berea College. And Berea College kind of has that diversity background as one of the only schools, the first school in the South that allowed co-ed, you know, male and females and black and white students to go to college together. So it kind of has that diversity history, and that kind of permeates the town. Even though it's a majority white town, I don't recall, even though I was very conscientious that I was one of few black folks and one of few black females, I don't recall a lot of bigotry. I don't recall a lot of, you know, just craziness and that. And it had all the makings to be just that. Now, I do think my brother kind of got more of that. So, you know, he had a different experience. But that was not my experience. I was, you know, on the homecoming court. I won Sweetheart Queen. I was the valedictorian. I was in every club. You know, did all kinds of sports. So it was a very embracing environment. It was small. I had, you know, I don't ever remember having black teachers. So I remember often hearing people saying we're going to a HBCU because I don't recall ever, I don't think I've ever hardly had black teachers. Right. I mean, I say
it all the time. Like I never had a black coach. I never had a black teacher.
Yeah, I don't remember any of that. But And you know, unquestionably, there were some gaps, right? Because I do think there was a lot of lack of exposure. So many things I've learned as an adult was simply not being exposed, not having these societal, you know, connections to know the doctors and lawyers and you can do this and that. But, you know, I had a great experience. So it set me up for my comfort now in some of these spaces.
So one of the things I'd love to hear what your thoughts on is as an executive mother, right? And I used the word balance before, and somebody was like, I don't even know if a balance exists. Like, so how do you think about, like, I'm driving for this purpose, but I also have I have other responsibilities as a mother. Like, what does that look like for you?
Well, you know, I knew when I went. So I have a son and a stepson. Both of them now are young adults. But when I went to law school, Cameron, my youngest, was a baby, like, you know, 4 or 5-ish, and I knew, like, I went to night school, so I made, and my family made, my husband, him, we all made significant sacrifices. That was tough. Like, that was basically turning over the reins to his dad and whatever babysitter I had at the time, you know, and saying, keep him alive. You got 3.5 years, keep him alive, you know. But I stepped away. Because law school is that intense. Right. It's all hands on deck. You've got to focus if you're going to make it. And for me, it was important that I made it all happen in as short of time as I could, because I did know I had a son and I was trying to get back to his life and our life as a family. So it made things very serious for me. Like, I wasn't in law school kicking it and partying. I was, you know, going to class and going home and studying and just falling out at night, just exhausted, and get up and do it again. But, you know, I look back on it now, I'm like, God gives you what you need. I couldn't do that now. Like, I'm 10 years removed. But at the time, you just kind of grind it out, you know, and when it's over, you look back and like, and I knew I was doing it for him. It was literally an opportunity for me to elevate my family and give Cameron in particular opportunities that I knew we would otherwise not have. And that's a great motivator. Right.
What do you think, what is the lesson you want him to take from all that?
No excuses. I don't want to, and I've told him 1,000 times, like, you saw me, you know, late at night, after working all day, going to school for 4 hours, coming here, you know, and still continue to study till I just couldn't do it anymore. He saw me studying for the bar exam, was like, oh, Mom, this is crazy. And it is crazy.
Is it just that hard? I've like I've had 5 other attorneys on here, and I'm asking, is it just that hard?
It so is. I mean, I've been successful. Like, the law school and the bar exam, like nothing I've ever, seriously, it is that hard. Like, I'm not making it up. And to the point that when I took the bar exam, I went back to Barnes and Thornburg and said, okay, we need to have a conversation, because I'm certain I did not pass it. It's off the chain. Like, it really is hard. And it doesn't make any difference how smart you are. It's hard. Now, I've had a couple people like, oh yeah, I took the bar exam, but most normal folks I know, it was hard. Yeah, it really is that hard, I do believe.
So with the layers of success in all of your life, you know, what's been the failure? What's been the thing that set you back that you had to go, I had to really rethink this, really challenge yourself to go, you know, this is how it wasn't supposed to be like this, but now it is. Now I got to deal with this.
Yeah. So, you know, again, I'm removed from my immediate failures, the things, so I can now look at them kind of retrospectively and see how at the time what seemed like the end of the world was meant to be, right? Not getting my first opportunity at Lilly, I thought was the end of the world, and then I ended up in the perfect lab, the perfect position, just the opportunities align. Getting hired as an attorney was pretty daggone hard, and it was frightening because I now rolled the dice. I had 3 to 5 years invested, and now you got to go make this happen. Like, and you're starting over, and you're trying to convince people that, I wasn't your typical student. I didn't go to, day school. I didn't have a 3.8 GPA. I was not. So again, Barnes kind of rolled the dice. I was not, I look back and be like, of course. The reality was I didn't fit the mold of what was the typical successful law student. And so you have to kind of tell that story, right? Even now, like right now, my son's getting ready to graduate. And this is probably one of the hardest times in my life I've experienced. What I've told you about is a lot of things that I've had control over for the most part, right? And I'm good. When I can, if I've got to rely on me, I'm good. Mm-hmm. I'm now in a position where my son is driving the bus. And this is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. It's challenging. Yeah. And watching your kids grow up and get out there in a world that we're currently experiencing scares me to death. It's hard, and I'm not in control. So now I just stay very prayerful.
My oldest, she graduated in 2020 from high school, and so took a gap year to LA, and went to the Dream Center and spent a year serving. So Compton, Watts, South Central, Skid Row, and I think it was that first time that I'm like, I have to relearn how to be a dad now. Right, because this feels different. And I'm not in control. Different. And it's LA. It's not like something goes down. Like I can't just get in my car and be there a couple of minutes, right?
Yes.
And so I remember thinking it was very different. My daughter's name is Jayla. She's at Purdue now, and I was telling her, like, those years were hard on me. And I was trying to figure out how to still be your dad, still be in your life, still be a voice of reason, but also let you do your thing and fail, and succeed, and figure it out. And like that's the hardest thing ever because we're drivers, we're controllers, and I'm like, no, I know the decision you need to make.
Right.
You need to do this, right? And allowing them to do things that you're like,
that's not going to work.
That is not going to work.
It is so hard.
There ain't nothing good about that situation right there.
Yes, but you're hard-headed and so go on.
Yeah.
It is the hardest. So this is really a growth and learning process. It really is. And it's one of the hardest things I've ever had to go. I told my husband, like, this last year and a half has been harder than all the 18 before. Like, it's very, very hard.
Well, just wait when they're at college and now you're like, having conversations. You're still trying to weigh in. You're still trying to get them that voice so they hear dad or mom's voice, on the decisions that you're making. But you're still, there's a gap and there's a conversation. And
you're not getting half the facts.
Right? And it's like, or even sometimes they just say them and now they start saying them as a matter of fact, like, what you going to, like, you can do about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'll stop that check. That's what I'll do now. But definitely, I'll pray for you on this journey because it is just that. It's a journey that requires us to say, like, there's only certain things that you even think you can control. Right? That you can control. All right, I got to put you on the hot seat. Okay. So now this is the hot seat, Mojo Up hot seat. Right. I got some questions to ask you with one word or phrase answers. You can dive in deep if you want to. If you feel the urge, you have to. All right, easy going. Here we go. Favorite place to vacation?
Aruba.
Coolest city that you've been to?
We just went to Vegas and we had a blast.
I'm leaving on Sunday. So, favorite homemade meal?
Oh, either lasagna or my husband smoked some ribs that are amazing.
A restaurant you'd love to go to?
Harry and Izzy's.
A brand you love to support or you love?
Well, I guess I would say my Women in High Tech, my organization I've been involved with forever, or Boss Babes. That's a good one, too.
Favorite sports team?
What I've always said, and I have to stick with, is whatever team my son's on. So right now, that's Brebeuf, so I'm rolling with Brebeuf.
All right. Favorite college?
I'll say the University of Louisville. That's my alma mater.
Last TV show you watched?
Oh, no. I really don't remember. I can't remember a TV show that I've been watched recently. I will say like the Fixer Upper and all the home shows. Like I watch all that. Yeah, I watch HGTV and Magnolia Network like it's going outside.
A must-watch movie.
So I like Shawshank Redemption. That's a good movie.
Can come on. You can flip through the channels. If it's on, you can pick up no matter where it is.
That's a good one.
You can watch it all the way to the end.
That's a good one.
A great book you recommend?
I just read or received Jamil Hill's Over the Hill, and I think that was pretty good.
Favorite type of music?
Hip hop, R&B.
Your hype song, the one you're gonna walk on the stage to?
Oh, that's hard. I have a bunch. I can't think of a song right now, but I like some Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne gives me hype. I like him. I can't think of an exact song, but something like
It's
that.
been several years ago now, but I went to Lil Wayne and Drake when they came through.
Oh my goodness, that's a good one.
They did a battle back and forth. Like it was like take this song, take this one, and they went back and forth. It was kind of dope. So.
And they can go forever. That's when you forget how many songs. Exactly.
I forgot about that one long time ago, right?
I'll tell you another one. Stevie Wonder. I went to a Stevie Wonder concert, and he's another one. You forget how many songs he has. He's just out there. They rolling the stuff off there. He's still out there just jamming.
A nonprofit. So nonprofit you support.
Oh, I said those.
The Women in Tech.
Yeah.
So here. So let's go back to a brand, like a brand.
Oh man, that's hard. I guess I should say with all the shoes I bought for my son, definitely Nike. I guess I'll say that. Lord, I should have some stock.
Right. Last question. There comes a time in all of our life when you have a number, a dash, and a number on a tombstone, and there's a bunch of people that are going to be standing around talking about you. Mm-hmm. What is it that you hope they say?
She tried to make this place better. That she used the little bit of influence she had, the little bit of platform that she's been given to keep it real, tell the truth, and try to move things forward, make things better for the generations coming after. That's all I would ever hope anybody would say about me.
Well, Angela B. Freeman, everybody that I talk to that talks about you, talks so highly about you. Obviously, we had a chance to meet a couple years ago, getting to know you. Thank you for coming by today. You get the honor, though,
Thank you.
of giving us the It's a Wrap.
Oh, it's a wrap.